Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Let's read Ukraine's quote of the day. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. We've all been waiting a very long time, but the day has finally come. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense just tweets, ATACMS, more news to come. President Zelensky has already confirmed that yes, the United States has delivered ATACMS to Ukraine, and yes, they were used for the first time last night. For operational security, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense won't publish anything for 48 hours. But the Russians are sure talking about it on Telegram. The Russians got hammered last night and they are panicking at the moment on social media. Secretly deployed ATACMS used in devastating Ukrainian strike on a Russian airfield. It was actually two in the occupied territories, an airfield in Berdyansk and an airfield in Luhansk. Ukraine has since the first days of the invasion repeatedly asked Washington for ATACMS, a weapon designed for the American HIMARS launcher, with a range of up to 500 kilometers. So last night, Ukraine executed Operation Dragonfly, and the goal was to strike these two airfields in Luhansk and Berdyansk before the Russians could evacuate their most valuable equipment from these airfields, which everyone knew was in ATACMS range. So as of this morning, the estimates are that Russia lost 9 helicopters, special equipment located at the airfields, an air defense system launcher, an ammunition depot, and the runways are currently damaged. There's a 5-minute video put out by the Russians. I'm guessing this is somebody at the airfields just on their smartphone taking a 5-minute video. It's dark, it's in the middle of the night. I'll link it down below if you want to watch it, but you can see the silhouette of one of these helicopters where 9 were successfully destroyed. The Russians have also posted pictures of the expended ATACMS missiles with their serial information, so we know that these were ATACMS missiles produced in 1995, 96, and 97. These ATACMS missiles are almost 30 years old. Ukraine is doing us a favor by just donating it to them and then allocating money to ourselves to build brand new missiles. These missiles were almost at the end of their service life, and they would have cost us money to decommission anyways. Might as well put them to good use. And it's being reported that these missiles are the Block 1A M39A1 variant, meaning they've got bomblets inside. This is a cluster munitions rocket. So here's a very old video on YouTube put out by the US Army showing exactly how they disperse the bomblets. So the missile, this is a test launch, the missile mid-flight will accelerate and then start spinning. There's then explosives on the hull that detonate, releasing the bomblets as the missile is spinning. So I've slowed it down so you can kind of see what happens, but that was it. That was the missile exploding in midair to release the cluster munitions. And the Russians were kind enough to take pictures and show us exactly what the expended bomblets look like. When you hit an airfield with this, you're trying to disperse the explosives as far as possible to damage as many aircraft and helicopters as possible. So according to the Russians, this was a bad night. And it looks like Russia had, going back to February of last year, about 100 Ka-52 attack helicopters. Each one is worth about $16 million. And as of today, they're now down to 30. They've lost 70% of their Ka-52 attack helicopter fleet. And for as big as Russia is, they've only got 30 remaining. Let's see if we can get that down to 10. But let's remember, we're in the middle of Russia's big fall offensive. if we just go back in time a couple days, this article is from October 12th, Ukraine faces onslaught at Avdiivka as Russia launches a new offensive. Just 2 days ago, Shoigu said he was confident in the situation in Ukraine and Russia's big fall offensive. However, the headlines are starting to turn. Ukraine Situation reports, Russia's localized offensive is failing, according to Ukraine. And now we get to today's story from the Institute for the Study of Warfare. The Russians are now trying to tone down the rhetoric about their big fall offensive in Avdiivka because they're getting annihilated. The pictures and videos of these Russian convoys and armored columns, these human meat wave attacks trying to take the city of Avdiivka, are horrendous. So Russia launched this big offensive on October 10th, and for day and night, 24-hour operations, the Russians assaulted Avdiivka from numerous directions, hoping to overwhelm the Ukrainian defenders, that Ukraine would just run out of ammunition, and they would have to surrender this city. But it's been almost a week, and Russia's made virtually no progress. You can go to the maps, you can go to the timelines, everything's been geolocated. Sure, there's 1 square kilometer maybe here of a field that the Russians successfully took, but they've taken thousands of casualties just from trying to take Avdiivka in the last 6 days, losing dozens of tanks and armored vehicles. The videos are online. I'll link these down below if you want to see in real time what this war looks like. Here's a 3-minute video from Dmitry at War Translated with subtitles just showing, the landscape, the hellscape of what this war looks like on the front lines. Here's a video of a Russian convoy trying to advance, being completely annihilated by Ukrainian artillery. Here is a video of the battlefield, showing dozens of Russian corpses littered everywhere. A failed human meat wave attack against a fortified Ukrainian defensive position. Here's another video of Russians crawling, trying to retreat, and I'm sorry, no mercy for the enemy. They were part of an assault, and Ukraine's not going to let these guys successfully retreat. Here's another video. Going to caution you, you might not want to click on this one. But I've seen now a half a dozen of these videos where if a Russian soldier gets injured, they know their situation is hopeless. They know nobody is going to evacuate them. They know if they're evacuated, they're not going to receive proper medical treatment. Almost any injury on the front lines now for the average Russian soldier is already a death sentence. So in this video, once again, I'll link it down below. As soon as this Russian soldier is injured, he takes out his 1 grenade and ends his own life. For the Russians, they now view this as their way out from serving in Putin's military, not being allowed to leave, not being allowed to rotate. It's horrific. So here's a report from friends of the channel, Macer Gifford, currently fighting on the front lines. Russian soldiers are using their dead as sandbags. They're stripping their uniforms off to use as camo netting above their trenches. Our guys are seeing walls of half-naked dead soldiers in different levels of decomposition, whole and in parts. Grim. Top comment says, I trust your judgment, but this seems insane even for Russia. Mesa replies, we've got the photos. I need my buddy to send them to me. I'm not sharing them because unfortunately you can also see Ukrainian bodies being used by the Russians as sandbags for their fortifications. These headlines, guys, are just absolutely insane what the Russians have reduced themselves to. Look at this headline. Partisan Mariupol poisoning operations so successful because Russians are idiots. Ukrainian partisans tell the Kyiv Post that in the latest incident, Russian soldiers in Mariupol were fed poison, which reportedly killed 26 and sent 15 to intensive care. I heard about this report from a couple months ago, but yeah, there's a partisan group in Mariupol that keeps finding ways to successfully poison Russian soldiers. Why do these Russian officers continue using catering services of the local inhabitants that they're occupying? It's because they're pretty dumb. Russia accidentally admitted that most of their drones come from China. I don't think Putin wants to have this fact advertised, but Russia's finance minister accidentally revealed this in a speech. I'll link this clip down below, but what he says is, the goal is that 41% of all drones by 2025 bear the Made in Russia label. Today, almost all drones are from China, and we are grateful to our partners for this. So yes, the official position of China is that they're not supplying military aid and equipment to the Russians, but private Chinese companies are still finding a way to produce military equipment and get them across the border to Russia. Does President Xi of China care? Doesn't seem like it. And here he is. Vladimir Putin made it to Beijing for the Belt and Road Initiative conference, and here are the two dictators shaking hands. Putin is now the beggar-in-chief, going to despots around the world, Iran, North Korea, Syria, the Taliban, and China, begging for help as Russia cannot win this war on their own. Russian ships seen unloading North Korean cargo near Ukraine in likely arms shipments. Yes, the North Koreans are supplying artillery shells to the Russians. They're not doing a good job of hiding this. What will be the consequences for North Korea? And I don't know how you can possibly sanction that country any more than it's already been sanctioned. Putin speaks to Prime Minister Netanyahu over conflict with Hamas. Cynically, the Russians are offering to be mediators between Hamas and Israel, completely ignoring the fact that Hamas is a terrorist organization. Russia will not condemn Hamas and the terrorist acts they've committed since October 7th, and Hamas has actually been thanking and praising Putin for his support for their organization, treating them like the legitimate governing body of the Palestinian people in the West Bank. And I want to remind everyone that this is an active hostage situation. Hostage rescue experts on the daunting challenges facing Israel. Currently, the Israeli Defense Forces are stating that Hamas is holding 199 people hostage. Not just Israeli citizens, they're holding Americans hostage, they're holding Germans, they're holding people from other nations all around the world. Hamas doesn't care. They don't check your passports before they drag you back to the Gaza Strip to brutalize you. And this graphic is mind-blowing. Languages spoken in Israel. Check this out. Number 1 is Hebrew. That makes sense. Number 2 is Arabic. That makes sense. Number 3 is Russian. The third most commonly spoken language in Israel is Russian, and the government of Russia refuses to condemn Hamas. The reason why there's such a large Russian population in Israel is after the fall of the Soviet Union, lots of Jewish people in Russia faced persecution. Israel opened their doors to them, and A lot of Russian Jews relocated to Israel. This has been going on for decades. And yes, I don't think Putin has the best interest of these people in mind. And here's Solovyov on Kremlin State TV addressing the million-dollar question. Given that he is Jewish, how does he feel about the war between Hamas and Israel? And here's what he stated on his broadcast 2 nights ago. I'm Jewish, and I've never hidden that fact. In 2004, when there was also tension, I gave an interview to a Jewish youth newspaper, and I said that if war broke out in Israel, as a Jew, I would go there to defend my people. I'll tell you more. I'm 60 years old, but if Russia was not involved in a special military operation right now, I would go to Israel. I would go to Israel because Jews from all over the world are going there to defend their people after this terrible tragedy. Then the Israeli ambassador told me, Volodya, don't take offense, but you are too old. And I was at that age back in 2004. He said, at this age, the Israeli army doesn't need you. So Solovyov, who I don't think has condemned the terrorist attacks from Hamas, is saying that if Russia wasn't already in a special military operation, and if he wasn't 60 years old, he would return to Israel to defend his people. The sheer hypocrisy and cynicism from Solovyov is gut-churning. I want to remind people of things that he said last fall. Kadyrov calls for Russian jihad across all of Ukraine. So here's Solovyov on his broadcast from last winter, calling on all Muslims across the world to conduct jihad against the West, because everyone in the West are Satanists. That was the talking points last winter, but let me share with you this clip in case you forgot he said this.
Рамзан Ахматович, который говорит, что мы боремся с сатанистами. Когда Рамзан Ахматович говорит о том, что это война с сатанистами, он абсолютно прав. Вчера вечером Рамзан Ахматович написал, это джихад. Это джихад. Это священная война. Он прав. Сатанизм, да вот он.
So Kadyrov in Chechnya calls on Muslims across the world to conduct jihad against the West, and Solovyov, a Jewish man, agrees. It's a great idea for Muslims across the world to conduct jihad against the Satanist West. Now, what is the Muslim population of Europe today? About 5% or 44 million people. 99.9% are fantastic people. Hardworking people who just want to care for their families. But it's that insane 0.01% or whatever that are going to listen to messages from people like Kadyrov and Solovyov and actually do harm to other people. 2 Swedes shot dead in Brussels. Belgium raises terror alert to top level. This man from Tunisia was shouting Allah Akbar when he had an AK-47 and he gunned down innocent people in Brussels. This man was eventually found and killed by police, but these random terrorist attacks that could happen in Europe, in North America, given the tensions currently occurring between Israel and Hamas, Hamas is putting out the call for jihad all across the world. Attack any Jewish person, attack Israel, and attack anyone supporting Israel, which includes myself and the United States. So yes, I do take this a little personally. And then we got Iran. So Hamas was able to pull off this attack because nobody else knew about it. Not Hezbollah and Lebanon, and probably not Iran. They didn't know when it was going to occur. They knew something was coming probably. So Israel has bombed the airports in Damascus and Aleppo. This is Syria. because they got intelligence that Iran was going to rush deliver weapons and fighters to Israel's north border, being Hezbollah in Lebanon. So Israel bombed Syria's airports to prevent Iran from helping the jihadists. And now Iran, reportedly, is delivering their weapons and fighters to Russia's airstrip in Syria. Russia has a military base in Syria, and because the civilian airports were bombed, Iran is now delivering their weapons and fighters to Russia's landing strip so it can be sent to attack Israel. Everything is connected here, guys. Israel's ground offensive in Gaza may not be a full invasion, according to the ex-US ambassador. We're waiting for it. People have been saying the weather hasn't been good, it's been too cloudy, which is why Israel has held off. But for the people who are sympathetic to the Palestinian people, I've been getting these comments. People who say that Israel is an apartheid state and that Gaza is basically an open-air prison. There are solutions here. Solutions that the Arab world is not willing to entertain. And I can demonstrate this with this graph. This chart shows the estimated percentage of the population that was foreign-born as of the year 2017. We're mostly talking about the oil-rich Persian Gulf states, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and I've been to the Middle East. I've seen firsthand how absurdly wealthy these people are. So how is it possible that 88% of the population of the United Arab Emirates was born somewhere else? And it's because if you're born Emirati, you're born rich. You don't have to work a day in your life. So how does a country function when anyone born in that country doesn't have to work, and they import all of their labor from other parts of the world? Same is true with Kuwait, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia imported 10 million foreign workers last year. The United Arab Emirates, 8.7 million, Kuwait, 4.5. So the Gulf states, the Arab world, import tens of millions of people from other parts of the world to live and work in their countries. Mostly they come from poorer countries like Pakistan, India, the Philippines, Kenya. But if the population of the Gaza Strip is only 2.3 million people, then why can't we find a solution here? I'm convinced at this point that Hamas is never going to peacefully accept a two-state solution. We can talk about the history, we can talk about the past, mistakes being made by the British 75 years ago, but I'm living in the year 2023. What is the solution here? And I'm seeing absurdly wealthy Gulf states importing tens of millions of foreign workers. And at the moment, they won't allow in a single Palestinian refugee. Egypt is sealing up the border. So cynically, let's just be honest about what's happening here. The Muslim world, the Arab world, wants the Palestinians to remain there, to continue the fight against the evil Zionist Jewish state. They're the ones refusing to help find a solution. They're the ones keeping all the men, women, and children locked in this open-air prison, as they describe it, when in reality it doesn't need to be this way. But if the Gulf states took in every man, woman, and child and gave them a place to live and a job to work, then Israel would have won. And there's a lot of people in the Arab world that would keep the wars going, keep the fighting going, keep the suffering going, rather than allow a Jewish state to peacefully exist in the heart of the Arab world. So I'm going to continue standing by Israel. The number of Americans killed by Hamas on October 7th is now up to 30. These are good people, and they don't deserve this. Final video I have for you is a stork that flew in to say goodbye to a Ukrainian hero during his funeral procession. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.